Hi everyone, welcome back to Lair Academy. It's Mickey again, and in this lesson, we're going to be working on our controller and specifically the create method. In the previous lessons, we set up our views and got our layout working, as well as our database migrations and models. So let's dive right in by opening up our terminal, and let's create a controller. We'll say PHP Edison make controller, and we'll call it paste controller. Now let's load that controller up in our IDE. I'll be using Sublime Text again, and underneath app, HTTP controllers, you can see we have a paste controller in here. And what we want to do first is make sure we import our database model. So I'll use app models paste. And now let's just create 4 stubs. We're going to have a couple different methods here. We'll have a create method. The next method we're going to have is store. We are also going to have a view method. And the view method is going to accept a paste variable. In our case, it will be an ID. And finally, let's have a destroy method. Now before we can continue with the create method, let's head on over to our routes. So we want to look up web.php, and let's change this default route a little bit. Instead of using an anonymous function when they hit the home page, let's make them use a controller. So we'll end this, and we'll say uses, and we want to refer to our paste controller, and the method is going to be create. And let's give this a name. We'll call it home for now. And just like we did with our controller, let's just copy and paste this route, let's say 4 times, because we want to add the other routes in here. So instead of home, we're going to have a store, we'll also have a view, and we'll have a destroy. Let's make sure we update the URLs and the methods. And just a quick note on the routes here, we're just going to be using the post and get. And when we come down to the view here, this is the only one where we're going to accept a parameter and we're going to accept the slug. Let's finish this off with destroy, and we can save our file. Now if we switch back to our paste controller and specifically the create method, our create method is going to do a few things. It's going to create a paste for us automatically, and it's going to pass that into the view. So let's handle this first. We'll create a variable called paste. We want to make sure that this paste variable is assigned a new paste record from our database. So we can say create, and for now we need to pass in some blank content, so we'll just make content as nothing. And we also need an expiry date, so we'll say expires at, and let's just use the carbon object. We'll say carbon because we're not importing it, and we'll use the now function, and let's just add 2 days to that. The next thing we want to do is we want to store this paste ID into our session. And the reason that we want to do that is so when the user comes back, they're going to have this paste ID in their session, and we're going to load up the paste instead of creating a new one. So make sure we do session put paste.id is equal to the paste ID. And finally, we're just going to return a view, and we want to return the create view, and we're going to pass in our variable for paste and just assign it to our paste PHP variable. While we're here, in the store function, let's just do a die and dump or a DD of the request object and just make sure we get all of them. The next step here is we're going to have to rename our welcome.blade.php. If we bring back our sidebar and go to resources, views, you can see we have welcome.blade.php. We're going to just right click and rename this file. And the name that we want to give it is going to be create.blade.php. Now, if we open up this file, we're going to have to make a few changes. Right here, we're passing in the variable paste, so we want to refer to that in our text box. We'll say paste content, and underneath where we're using the share link here, want to make sure that we update that as well. So we'll take out our default value, and we'll add in the paste variable, and we want the slug. And if you remember in a previous video, the paste slug itself is done when the creating event is happening. So this is just a random slug, and we're going to come back and fix this up later. One of the final things we're going to need to do before we can test this is edit our create.blade.php, and we're going to add a form tag here at the top. We'll just remove our end tag, make sure we include the CSRF field, and our action is going to be our route store, and we want to make sure that we're using the method post. And let's also turn off autocomplete. And so we'll indent everything here, and here at the bottom we'll just end the form tag. Let's make sure everything's lined up. And actually, you know what? Let's take this form tag outside of the div, or else it will look a little bit funny. So we'll just copy and paste it up here. And we'll remove the last tag. Now if we save everything and switch back to Chrome, you can see that we don't have any content, but our share link is updating. If we check out our database, we can use PHP Artisan Tinker to load up our project, and we run /app/models/all, and you'll see all the records in our database that have been created. You can see item number 2 here is the one that we're referring to. Now the only problem with this setup right now is if we refresh the page a bunch of times, you can see that our slug has been changing and it's creating new records in our database. This is something that we're going to fix in the next lesson, but for now, thanks for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.